All right, Mr. Chair, you're live.
All right. Welcome, everyone. A quorum being present, this meeting of the Annapolis Historic Preservation Commission for 14th of June, 2022 shall come to order. The commission operates pursuant to the land use article of the annotated code of the state of Maryland. Local authority for the commission is derived from municipal code for the city of Annapolis, chapter 21, section 56. The purpose of the HPC is to preserve sites, structures, and districts of historical, cultural, archaeological, and architectural significance. Requirements for serving on the commission are detailed in chapter 21, section 8.06. The HPC operates pursuant to the State of Maryland Open Meetings Act, and therefore no pending application shall be discussed between or among commissioners outside the public hearing to determine the disposition of any application. Okay. Next on the agenda is roll call. Bill Williams.
Here.
Kim Finch.
Present.
Bobby Collins.
Here.
Resources Vice Chair. Will Scott.
Here.
Leslie Xavier.
Here.
Kevin Smith.
Here.
And I am Tim Leahy. I serve as chair. So we have, thank you, everyone. We have 100% attendance again. Thank you very much. Also present are our staff, John Tower, and Jackie Rouse from Office of Planning and Zoning. And also a special guest tonight, Michael Laplace, our new Planning and Zoning Director. Welcome. And Cheryl Wood, who is our representative in the Office of Law. And our recorder is Kimberly Consoli. All right. Next on the agenda is announcements. Do any commissioners or John have any announcements?
There, a little technical difficulty. Plenty of violations.
We're not there yet.
Sorry.
Well, we're not the violations, just any announcements for the good of the order.
Let's see, we are still working on having restaurants comply with the fire resistant portion of our rules for fixtures and furnishings for outdoor dining. And it's turning out to be more difficult than I think anyone had imagined, because there's a single line that usually comes in the description of an umbrella that's for sale, especially one that's for sale on Amazon. And that might say NFPA 1701 compliant. And the fire marshal's office is looking for a little more than that. But the problem is that for these particular umbrellas, it's hard to find more than that. So we hope to get that worked out. Because everyone wants umbrellas. As Jeremy Black said to me, if there's a table with no umbrella and a table with an umbrella, only one of them will have people seated at it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Maybe in general, during our administrative discussion, we can talk a little bit about how it's going at the end of the meeting, because I think it's going quite well personally, but I think we'll have a longer discussion about it then. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of draft minutes. We have 2 minutes up for approval, April 28th, 2022. Are there any changes, questions, comments about the minutes for that date? No. All right. Hearing no comments, can I have a motion to accept April 28th?
I move that we accept the draft minutes for April 28th, 2022.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstain? Okay. Next is May 10th. Are there any changes, comments, questions about the minutes for May 10th? All right. Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I move that we accept the draft minutes for May 10th, 2022.
Okay.
Second.
Second the motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain? Or oppose? Abstain? Okay, good. I think we were all in attendance at both of those meetings. All right, next on the agenda is new violations and status of active violations. John, I have in my notes from our prior meeting, violation, a complaint and violation on Pinckney Street next to HA's headquarters. Can you give us an update on that one?
Well, we haven't yet served them with a notice of violation. I'm still working on it. The person that I work with on those things has recently been out for a number of different matters. And if I went down the list, you'd say, well, that was the trifecta of bad luck. But she's back in the office and we will get it done.
Okay. So have you actually met with the owner?
Oh,
Or-
no. I've spoken to her on the phone.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, we look forward to the next step. Other violations, John?
Well, there's an unfortunate one on, well, there are two this week. And I think anytime that I have the audacity to schedule something like a lunch with my mother, that's when I'm going to run into the violation. So one of them was on Conduit Street, and a porch was being redone. That was last Thursday. Now, I'm not going to say that they were doing bad work. They just weren't approved for it. And then when I looked at what they were going to replace the porch deck with, it was beadboard, literally porch ceiling beadboard. And I thought, well, maybe you guys don't do a lot of this type of work, but I'm waiting for an application for that. And then there was an unfortunate one on Dean Street where a young and new buyer had purchased a house and asked, she said, specifically several times and in writing if the house was in the historic district. And she was told by the listing agent that it was not, and proceeded to do a little remodeling. Now, it's unfortunate because it was a house with a fair amount of original material. But so the 2/2, the original 2/2 windows and the trim are gone. And I'll work with her to try to reestablish that. And then there was another one that Bill Williams brought to my attention, and that was Fox's Den painting a sign of the business name on the brick just outside the entrance. They've since removed that, and we'll see. We'll wait for the application to come in for that. There's never a lack of things to look at.
Right. Well, that's a real concern that a real estate agent would not be. Well, well, maybe we can talk about that in a future meeting about educating real estate people or making it more clear. It's right in the requirement for stating that is right in the conditions of sale in any settlement. Bill Williams had a question about as built.
We have a facility downtown that came through for review. There was a question at the time about them screening the rooftop equipment. And from memory, we were assured it would not be visible. Well, as it turns out, it is quite visible. And I was wondering how we enforce something like that.
Well,
they said they would screen it if necessary.
Bill, are there any ones in the address?
You're probably thinking of this one I'm thinking of.
Well, it's okay to mention it.
Right.
Well,
So
it's the old Charles
compromise.
building, basically.
The what?
Fawcett building, you mean?
Fawcett building, sorry. Fawcett.
Faucet.
110
right, yes.
compromise.
Yeah.
I noticed 110 compromise. It does
I mean,
not look
it's
appear that
currently
the
looking like
structure-
a oil refinery.
It does not look to me as if that is what was in the final approved drawings.
I've looked. I agree. It's a little taller.
And not screened at all.
Right. And I think that the request for screening or the requirement for screening can be explored, but I'll have to unearth the exact wording.
Okay,
Well,
if you could do that. And
I do remember it being asked at the time, and the statement that was made by the representative was that it was not going to be visible, and currently it's not visible.
So was this in conjunction with the restaurant approval?
This was, I believe, it was going over the restaurant. I don't think it's this current restaurant.
Well, it's part of
correct.
the build out. It was the new equipment that was being added, I think, because they were doing a restaurant
Yes.
probably.
Would
So
have been
that,
It would have been our
had-
final, it would have been our final certificate of approval
Right.
revision. We had 5 or 6 revisions, so
Right,
whatever
there've
the
been
final.
a zillion revisions, but that restaurant has not been finalized out yet. They're moving towards that. So I think if they had said that they would, do better screening, I think this would be the ideal time to go back to them and say that
We certainly,
they're
Yeah,
still under permit, is what I'm saying.
okay. We certainly want to get that building activated, but it is important that when something's approved, it's built as approved and not after the fact changed.
Right.
It's
So-
height as well as screening.
So, Tim, it's easy to lose these different conditional approvals because I actually believe we might be up to letter J on their revisions.
Yes,
And
I
that's
know.
10.
Yes, I have a long process. We're all aware. Yeah, but it would have been the final drawings that were approved. So, all right, if you could report back on that at our next meeting, John, at the end of June.
Look forward to it.
All right, great. Next on the agenda is the consent docket. The consent docket is a procedure designed to expedite applications before the commission. In order to be considered, the application must have received recommendation for approval or approval with minor conditions from all city staff and commissions and technical advisors. Also, there needs to be no public opposition to the application. If an application is approved on the consent docket, the applicant does not need to testify further and is free to leave the meeting. But please remember, you still will be required to obtain any additional permits from the city prior to commencing work. And you may remove the sign posting the application promptly. Okay, so the following applications are eligible for the consent docket. I have actually polled the commissioners before the meeting according to our rules, and all of these are agreed upon by the commissioners. The first one is Old Business 61 Franklin. You can promote the folks from Purple Cherry. Julian, please.
I'm forward right now.
We're here. Can you hear us and see us?
Yep. Hi, folks.
Maria and
You're eligible. This wonderful application is eligible for the consent docket. There is a condition that Bobby, so that we looked at the staff report, it is consistent with everything we've gone through for the last multiple meetings, and I do appreciate all your work on it. There's a condition, and Bobby, if you would read that condition, then we'll just be asking you to accept it.
Yes, we recommend approval because it's consistent with the guidelines B1, B2, and B3, and standards, Secretary of the Interior Standards number 3, with the condition that Mr. Blomley's requirement for a 4-inch setback and other comments be addressed in the building permit.
Okay.
Do you agree with that condition?
Yes, we do.
All right, great. We can move forward then. Can I have a motion to accept 61 Franklin Street on the consent docket? We'd love to see your presentation again. I think you've been through this before, so you understand the concept behind consent docket. Okay, I don't need to explain that. Okay,
I move that we approve the application for 61 Franklin Street because it is consistent with the guidelines mentioned previously, and the applicant has accepted the conditions.
can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right, there we go.
Hey,
Thank
you all.
Thank you. I think it's going to be a great outcome. All right, and you'll be hanging around, right?
Yep.
Okay, next on the agenda for consent docket is 15 Southgate Avenue. I'm not sure who is here to represent that, but again, we will go through. Is it Campion Ruby?
Yes, Kevin
Okay.
Campion, I'm here.
Great. All right. Hey there, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Okay, I'm great, thanks. So it's eligible for the consent docket, and I think you're experienced too. You know why we go through this process. We've seen you in multiple applications. And again, we do this so that the public hearing can take place on these projects. All right, and Bobby, there's a condition on this one?
Yes,
If you could read
approval
the
is-
staff recommendation.
Approval of this application is conditional to archaeological monitoring occurring during excavation. If approved by the commissioner, the owner and contractor shall coordinate with the city's archaeological consultant.
Okay,
Accepted?
accepted.
All right, I'll take a motion for approval on the consent docket for 15 Southgate. please.
I move that we approve the application for 15 Southgate Avenue because it is compatible with guidelines C1 and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitations numbers 9 and 10.
Second,
I second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right, there we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda for the consent docket is 44 Calvert Street. I think Lonnie is here. If you could promote her.
Lonnie is here.
Hi, Lonnie. Mute. There we go.
How about now?
That's better.
That's true.
Okay, you are on the consent docket. And there's a condition that that we just want to read and get your acknowledgement of.
I don't see it in the staff report.
Okay, this one was non-conditioned. So
Okay.
this one did not have any conditions. And Lonnie, for your information, the reason we don't need to go further from a public review is that it had no opposition. And so we look forward to the project. So can I have a motion?
I move that we approve the project at 44 Calvert Street, known as Arundel Center, because it is consistent with guidelines A1 and numbers 1, 3, 5, 9, and 10 of the Secretary of the Interior standards.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. And thanks for Lonnie for sending the sketch over. It's going to be pretty dramatic, and so we look forward to seeing it.
All right, thank you.
I have a question for Lonnie.
Yeah, I do
Okay.
too.
Yeah, so Lonnie, what is that crash test dummy again? Can you explain that?
I
No
cannot,
comment.
I cannot explain it. I don't know. It was a surprise. Hadn't been in any of the other sketches up to this point, so
I imagine it's a fun process going through this.
Lonnie, when's it supposed to be completed?
by roughly end of August. End of August to let's say, just so I can under promise and over deliver, let's say end of September.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
I thought it was one of the robots from Star Wars, is what I thought.
I'm not sure how that represents Anne Arundel County, which is the purpose of this. So
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, good luck.
I'll get back to you, and when we get a final, I'll send that to you. I'll send it to John.
I
and he
think
can share
that's
it
useful.
for fun.
Yes. I
Okay.
think that's super useful. Yes. All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Were there anything else?
That's it. We're good.
All right. Thanks.
Next on the agenda is 9 Southgate. I think the folks from Purple Cherry are still here.
Lawful's are here as well. They should be. Yep, there they are.
Okay,
Yes, we're here.
Oh, great. Hello. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. All right. You're on the consent docket, and after all of our project reviews, this is generally the way these end. We've seen so much of your development that when we get to this point, we don't need to actually have another formal presentation. It's all in the record. And we just need to have a public review in case there's any public comment. So that's what the consent docket is all about. And there was no public comment on any of these. So, okay. Bobby, can you read us the staff report recommendation, please?
The recommendation comes with a conditional for conditional approval, has the following conditions. Our applicants shall contact the city's consulting archaeologist before work commences to coordinate archaeological monitoring for any areas of new excavation. The applicant shall submit a masonry sample of the bricks and mortar for review and approval by preservation staff prior to the commencement of window infill. And finally, applicant shall work with staff to submit administrative applications for exterior mechanical equipment.
Okay. Do you accept those conditions on the approval?
We do.
I do.
Okay. All right. That being the case, can I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the application for 9 Southgate Avenue because it is consistent with guidelines C1, C9, C9, Secretary of the Interior Standards 1, 2, 5, 9, and 10, 8th, and then guidelines A3, D9, and E1.
Okay. And second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right. Well, thanks very much. I think it's going to be a great project, and I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate both
Thank you guys all again.
the owners going through with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. Okay. Last on our consent docket is 153 Duke of Gloucester Street. And
There's a condition on that one as well.
yes, there is a condition on that one. Okay.
The condition is that the existing metal roof is assessed for maintenance coating prior to installation of the solar panels. If a coating is required, please contact the staff.
Okay. And that would be Elena, is that right?
Yes, Elena with Circa Energy. We're a
Okay.
solar installer here in Annapolis.
Great. Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you accept that condition?
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
Great. Then I'll take a motion, please.
I move that we approve the application for 153 Duke of Gloucester Street because it is consistent with guidelines D1, Secretary of the Interior Standards number 2 and number 9, guidelines D9 and D10.
Okay. Second. Second.
A second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained. All right. Thank you. You are approved for a certificate of approval
Thank you.
and look forward to it.
Thank you.
All right.
That is how it's done. That's how you get you get through all those applications.
Yes, I must say thanks everybody, because in several applications, of course, we have hours and hours in the record on pre-applications. And a point of our rules, I will be working on these consent dockets with Kimberly to number the exhibits in the minutes. So every application and revision will be numbered in the minutes, and then the staff report will be numbered in the minutes. We don't have any other extraneous exhibits like public testimony or anything else. So those will all be called out in the minutes to tie that up in a nice little bow. Okay. My agenda cut off on my printer, but I think all we have left is administrative business, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I had one or two things. We're not going for a record at 7:26. I think we might. I think 7:23 is our record. But one or two things. I talked about the furnitures and fixtures that John has done a great job of getting. And so I would like to acknowledge that John has worked very hard to get these implemented. And if you walk around downtown, I think you can see the result of all our hard work, and I think it's not perfect. There are one or two that I've talked to. John is still working with the owners, but I think it's showing, it's bearing fruit. I hope you all agree.
Much improved.
As far as the administrative aspect of it, it has been at City Council for more than 2 cycles. It has not been on the agenda specifically. They've been consumed with budget, so I didn't really expect it. But when budgets are done in July, I will confirm with the office, the city clerk, Regina, that we have complied with the rules and that we've known they've been in effect. They have the effect of law through the new procedure. And I just will confirm that process is complete. And it doesn't need to have an additional hearing at City Council. It would be a problem. I'd be happy to present to City Council, but I don't believe it is a requirement. Yes, Leslie?
So I just had a question for John. With regards to the umbrellas, is there like a consortium of the restaurant owners downtown? And is there a possibility of trying to find or source like, one type of umbrella and then buy in bulk so that everybody would more or less have the same type of umbrella?
Well, I think that's a great thought. The individualism of restaurants is expressed daily to me in different ways. And I'm not sure it's not quite like corralling cats, but everyone goes in a different direction. And I wish that there had been a standard, and let's say the different restaurants had simply chosen different colors to express themselves. That would have been great. But each one had a different approach depending on, for the umbrella, depending on the sort of table they chose. They wanted to match the umbrella and the apparatus that holds it up with the table. One could spend a good portion of each day going from restaurant to restaurant, like, oh, this isn't at 7 feet. Can you set this back another foot, and so on. But I think it's working out well. I really do appreciate you saying that. I would have loved to have seen it myself.
And
I just thought that, with given that the stipulations for the NFPA code is so strict that, that might have been an easier option.
Yeah. And to answer your question, there is a loose consortium of downtown merchants that Eric Evans actually is the head of, and it is very loose. But like John said, the individuals express their desires, and they don't work together on purchasing, for instance. They more or less work together on advertising. It's a vestige of the Main Streets organization that used to be in place. Okay. Next, I've had some conversations regarding, and there's maybe some of you have heard discussion in the community about a hotel at City Dock at where Phillips used to be, and it is indeed in discussion. The owner is interested in learning more about what is feasible on that site, and we actually, the mayor and John and I met with Robert Clark and Karen Brown at HA. It was an impromptu meeting, which worked out very well because the mayor, we all have the same goal in mind of activating that site and making it better. It is a dead zone. It's very valuable from all sorts of points of view, but we wanted to do the right thing. What we came away from the meeting was, let's leverage the work that's already been done and with a lot of public review on the City Dock Action Committee, which addressed this exact issue. So we need to resurface the recommendations that were coming out of that and get that back in the discussion, because right now the owner is looking at it as just a single site, and we're saying, no, you need to look at it as a part of a planning process for the whole City Dock. The concept of combining multiple parcels, maybe changing the parcel size has been brought up. There'll be a lot of work to do to combine the parcels, 3 different owners. The concepts of John introduced the concept of merging some of the pump house activities, the future pump house on the north side of the city dock, into possible structures, so it would become a private public partnership, which would be great. And then the discussion of any change in height district has not been brought up specifically, but eventually I do anticipate that conversation will begin. Again, it began again 4 years ago with a rather drastic change. I think it's now being approached in the correct way through the process. So the dialogue is ongoing. It's going to take a while. I hope that in our next City Dock Action Committee presentation to the Planning Commission and HPC, that we will see this parcel addressed and some design concepts start to be presented. And our comment, of course, well, we're happy to take a pre-application at any time.
So Tim, as part of that process, are they expanding the scope of the city dock plan to include those parcels?
I don't think that's formal.
Right, because I think the resistance in the past about when suggestions have been made about things to be added to what you've seen, you and the Planning Commission have seen, it's been that it's not part of our scope. So that might be an issue that needs to be addressed. And then my second question is, do we have another meeting scheduled, a joint meeting scheduled? We haven't heard from them about another session. Okay.
Good question. And John has his ear to the ground on that. And John, you can update us. You've participated in several meetings. We continually say, talk to us, please talk to us.
Right.
Well, I don't know exactly when the next meeting is, but that's just because I haven't looked at my calendar. They're really regular. They're typically every 2 weeks. So we would probably have one next week. However, tomorrow I'm off to the National Archives to take a look at their flood mitigation equipment there. And that's with Drew. And I'm hoping that I'll get to see a variety of flood mitigation devices. I'm not going to see them in action, but I'll get to see them. So to give a better perspective on how some of this equipment is going to look when it's not in use. And of course, one of the things about it is in these designs that it's not going to be prominent when it's not in place. And I think, and I can't remember, Tim, correct me on this, but an alternative to the glass wall, I don't know if I discussed it, an alternative to the glass wall is in consideration right now. And the glass wall was going to go on top of the parapet wall at Compromise Street.
Yeah. That was our strongest message back to them, that design would not be feasible for us.
And they're exploring an alternative that I think will be successful and not especially expensive.
Great.
So I had one more thought. I think that Public Works has just this week met with Fleet Reserve about them doing flood mitigation for their property also, but that's not included in what you all have seen.
Correct.
So they would have to file a separate application?
Yeah, as a separate owner, yes.
Okay, I think we probably need to make sure they understand that, John. Marcia was telling me yesterday that they were meeting with the Fleet Reserve about what the public requirements and building requirements would be for whatever it is they're planning on doing.
Well, they've asked to be included for some time. It's not within the scope of what the city is paying for in terms of design development, but it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think they want to be included, but I think I think what they have to do is maybe they may use the same contractor, but they would not be part of the city dock project, but they would be moving on sort of a parallel path.
Right.
But that may not all be understood in terms of the actual design approvals. And I
Yeah.
just thought about that.
Yeah.
while we're talking.
Yeah, we
Well-
certainly want to coordinate
Right.
from a master planning point of view.
Right.
That's kind of what really Bryce Perkins' role is, master planning, and the whole, many
Right.
people are participating in master planning, private and public owners. Okay, so stay tuned, and John we'll keep up to date on that. Two other short points. Undergrounding of utilities is something that is within our original code, amazingly. And it's still very important. We haven't done many projects in the last few years, but Sarah Elfreth was able to get funding from the state legislature for a planning effort in the city of Annapolis for undergrounding of utilities. As I understand it, it is with Department of Public Works. The funding is there for a study. What I offered and will follow up on with your agreement is we as the commission would be happy to help and move it along, and specifically to help figure out which are our priority view sheds where we would how we would prioritize certain view sheds. So Maryland Avenue is the one that comes up over and over again. So I if you agree, I will contact David Jarrell now in the next few weeks and say, hey, we hear this project is hopefully starting. We would like to have some input.
Sounds good.
Okay. And I really give Sarah a lot of credit for getting that in. To a certain extent, it was in conjunction with the Department of the Legislative Services building going down and not really following through our approval process. And I think we had asked as a concession that we get something done on adjacent sites, and it was more or less tied to that. So I want to give her a shout out for following through on that for us. Then the last thing, very briefly, Eileen and I are actually going to Cincinnati for the NAPC conference in July. So I don't know, I think Kim is going possibly, but I just want to let one last plug if you all wanted to go, and let me know if you're going. We'll get together.
Okay.
All right, that's it for my administrative business. Any other comments, thoughts? Yeah, Bobby.
When we were talking a few minutes ago about the lovely 110 compromise, is there, and I guess my question is addressed to John, is there ever a chance for him, or is there any kind of procedure when a project of this magnitude has gone on and had as many revisions as it's had, and actually change in tenant, which was what we've had? Is there any opportunity for him at the end to go through and kind of, can he be a wicket that they have to go through so that he gets the chance to walk it and make sure that all that work we did to set the standards, that they've adhered to them?
Well, I can tell you it's when something comes up that requires approval, that's the easiest time to weigh in. Most recently with their signs. But it's also a fairly politically charged project. It gets a lot of attention. So, but I don't have any trouble looking at what the conditions are and seeing that they're fulfilled.
Yeah, because I mean, when I see some of the stuff I've seen, when I see pictures in the paper, or when I go to the Chop Tank website, it's not what we saw in the drawings. So, and I don't know if it's just artistic license, for at least the drawings on the Chop Tank website. It's not the stuff that we saw, which I get. It was the previous tenant that put all the drawings in front of us. But I'm wary, as I'm sure everybody is to a certain extent, that everything is following as it should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they will have to have building finals as well as then use permit finals. And I don't think any of that has been yet scheduled. So there would be two opportunities to go and see what everything looked like and whether or not it agreed with was approved.
Yeah.
Tim, can I just add two thoughts?
Of course.
One thought and one experience that might be relevant. And Jackie would probably, because she's been involved for a few more days than John. She probably knows this better than me, but it would be my understanding that the project has entered the stage where for fairness and due process, somebody like John, or it could be one of us, has to say, I saw this specific thing and I'm concerned, and I would like it verified that it conforms with the approved plans. You can't just send somebody wandering in, except maybe John, if he's got,
agree.
you know, so we have to be careful. And that's the thought. And the experience is, since it's a matter of public record, I feel free to say that I have been called to give a sworn affidavit and be deposed for something I did as chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission in 1993. Be careful what you put your name on.
Yeah.
Jackie wants to say something. I can see.
Oh, no, we can find out when they have their building final scheduled, and John certainly be, either on the building final or the restaurant final would be, they won't have their restaurant final until they get all their building and trade finals, and then they can set up all their furniture, et cetera, and then they get a use permit final. So we could actually be involved in either one of those sets of finals.
Yeah, Jackie.
Figure that out.
Jackie, I'm of course not familiar with the whole process, but doesn't John have authority same as a building inspector would, since he would be inspecting what was approved for the HPC's permit, if you would? And that gives him authority to really walk in at any time.
Right, but I think inspections are usually, scheduled for buildings, and
they generally are scheduled unless the inspector has a concern. If the inspector is watching something closely and wants to make another look.
I think where life safety is involved, that might be the case. I think what Will is cautioned.
I think scheduled is probably a better way to go with it, though. And he would not have to go out at the same time as, say, one of the inspectors was going out to inspect whatever they're inspecting. But I do think it would be better if it was scheduled with the
I agree.
whoever the general contractor is, so that there would be that would be my suggestion. I'm sure we've done this before with these this type of project that has had so many revisions to it. It's really hard to keep track of it.
I will say historically, I've had inspectors notify the contractor or the owner that they would like to review the property, and they use the date and time when they'll be there.
That would be true.
So, well, that's how Bill, that's how I handle it. I always let them know ahead of time, unless I'm invited in.
Yeah.
Or unless he's doing his dead of night inspections.
It kind of goes to a point. We have a condition implied in every application that you will build what you have has been approved. And we used to actually require photographs after the fact.
Still do.
We still require that.
Still do.
We don't collect them all the time, I don't think, or look, but in this particular case, we have on record what the final approval was. And comparing what's as built to final approval is totally within our bailiwick.
Yeah, I guess my concern is when a plumbing inspector approves and he has a sticker, he puts it on the permit or usually on the electrical box, someplace where you're all handled. I don't think John has that sticker. So once they get all their stickers, the owner's considering they've got it, they're done.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and
interesting, some stickers.
Interestingly enough, as we're talking about 110, I have a text here from Roberta Lehner. Does everybody remember her?
Of course.
She's asking about the lights between the rafters of the pergola. Don't remember approving those.
Oh, Roberta, you could have texted me. I know you're watching.
Swear to God, she just sent this at 7:43.
That's because
So-
I walked part of the historic district with her and she brought that up last
Yeah.
week. So I have plenty to look at on that.
You have plenty to look at.
Yeah.
And as you said, we all want the right, we all want the same outcome. We want this to be
Right.
activated.
But the
it-
devil's in the details on this.
Devil's
one,
in
I'm
the
sure.
details, and people shouldn't.
And I
people
certainly
shouldn't-
don't mean to pile more on John's plate, but we
No,
spent
it's a pretty big
hours and
project.
hours and hours and hours on this, and I don't know, it's just,
Well, it's a
Well, now
trust
that
issue.
no one has to look at 61 Franklin anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
Hold
trust
on.
issue, a trust issue and a respect issue. When we approve something, we certainly expect the developer and the owner to respect our approvals. And
Yeah.
if they just think they can do anything they
Absolutely.
want after the fact, it just opens up
Right.
a whole different
Good.
animal.
It's just a tiny bit of background. 61 Franklin Street almost didn't make it.
Yes,
to-
I want
to
to
the-
actually,
We all-
thank you, John.
right.
Yeah,
We
we
That's
saw
for
that.
the jaws.
Yeah. So, John, I really want to give you a big shout out for the work you do to get these these projects to our meetings. And also the staff reports are just stellar. And so
Oh,
I get
thank
all the
you.
work that goes into it. I really not only love reading them from a grammar and vocabulary point of view, you work very hard on them. And I want to give you a real pat on the back for that. A real
Well,
shout out.
I'd like to just go on the record as saying Ryan Blomley worked with me at the 11th
Excellent.
hour.
Excellent.
And the information that he had requested twice from the architect hadn't come, and it was actually fairly simple. And he was willing to take the time
And trust.
to focus on it. It was at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and so that is the condition. So he
His
gave us
conditions
a-
are really clear in the
a
report.
conditional approval, which he's never done before. So
That's
I
great.
But that
really wanna
worked out
commend
really
him.
well.
Yeah.
You know, so that 61 didn't have to be postponed again.
Yes, exactly.
Great. That was really good, John.
Appreciate it, John. All right.
one last thing.
Of course.
I'm sorry, I gotta ask this because it's
It's
driving.
only 7:48. We've got another 2 hours.
Oh, yeah?
Talk to me about scooters,
What?
those darn scooters.
Oh, I thought you said Hooters. My
That's
goodness.
what
So did
thought.
I.
I was like, oh no, they're coming to town.
Another restaurant.
You need to the app if you want to run.
Oh, we're losing her. Say again?
You have to download the Bird app if you want to rent
I
one.
did it.
No, I want them off my streets. I want them to not get it.
This is a
left into
citywide.
the Sidewalks.
This
and-
is a citywide issue, not just a
Right.
historic.
Yeah, I
district.
mean,
Well,
I've got bird scooters in front of on my street that have been there since last week.
Isn't
What
there a
street-
number you
what-
can call for him to pick them up?
My husband wants to throw them in the bay.
It doesn't work that way. They're
Yeah.
geo-mapped.
Yeah.
I know Eric Lashinsky worked on them with this project, and I think that they periodically come out and find them and retrieve them. But what street do you live on?
Tolson. There's two of them. There's two on Tolson right now.
Okay. Let me talk to Eric about it, and we can let you know what the process is.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a number we can call or or a.
I'm not sure there is, but I can find out from
They're
Eric.
supposed to be in these systems, and I know I read in one of the press releases or something that was the case. Now, whether they did it and whether it works, Jackie's help
Right.
would probably be very valuable in this.
Yeah.
Right. They are geo.
Yeah,
You
they're
can't go
geotagged.
on.
It's very, very specific.
Right. You
Yeah.
can't John's campus on one. When you get to the campus,
It dies.
the scooter stops working, and the Naval Academy is not included either. So that's
It's
how
very-
yeah,
That
it's
works.
all-
I can tell you that works. I was at Maryland Hall and one was on the
Right.
grassy area. It wouldn't work. I moved it 10 feet and it worked under the
Oh,
street.
wow.
Under the street. So it's really a
Oh,
very
so
fine.
you were riding
geofence.
the scooter?
I was.
So maybe you could come over to Kim Street and pay some money and rent those two scooters. And
That was
move them.
Bobby's. It was Bobby's.
I mean, Bobby.
No,
I have to admit, it was
yeah.
fun. I have
Yeah.
to admit, it
Yeah.
was fun.
Okay, I will ask Eric about all of that.
Yeah.
And
It's
find out
been
how often
challenging.
they come
It's been a very, very public challenge, I think,
out. Right.
from a safety point of view.
I've gotten a few calls. One was from Carl Werner at the Iron Rooster. And he said that they needed to redesign the market space because kids were riding scooters up and down the central aisle.
Mhm.
That was one. And then the other one was at Gott's Garage. One of the managers talked to two young men who were riding in rush hour, exiting traffic in Gott's Garage. And he said, "You want the police? I got them." He had the police there. And the boys were literally laughing at the officer. And I thought, boy, this is not going well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's not safe, though. I mean,
It
Very
wasn't
unsafe.
safe.
Unbelievable things I've seen on 3 kids on one scooter on West Street, going the wrong way.
I thought you had to be 18 to rent one of the scooters. Or
No,
bike.
these kids were clearly, yeah.
All
It's
you
been
need
in-
is a
it's been
credit
in the
card
news.
and an app.
Yeah.
Right. Their combined age was 18.
There you go. All right, but we
Okay.
digress. We
All right.
digress.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you
No,
for answering
good
my
for bringing it
question.
up. Any other business? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Okay,
Tim,
thanks, everybody. Yes, Will?
do you think we'll have our administrative meeting